Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Web3 fans. Who's a Barbie fan? What do you think of our lounge? Isn't this awesome? Well, welcome to today's first presentation with some really exciting folks from Mattel and the Wilson Center. We're excited to have you here. Just a couple of quick housekeeping announcements. First thing I wanted to do is thank all of our many sponsors who have helped make all of this possible. Midnight Oil, Passage Labs, Ethos Spatial, Solana Foundation, Gen City Labs, and NICAP 3D. Today we have a really special feature. NICAP's 3D is here today with their capture cage. And you can walk in, it's free, get yourself digitized for the metaverse. So it just takes a few minutes. You'll sign a quick release, go in, get your picture taken. I've already done it. They'll send an email to you later this week with your image, and you can use that for anything in the metaverse. It's really cool. So check it out. If you haven't gotten yourself a digital wallet, like a Coinbase wallet or a MetaMask wallet for crypto trading and crypto transactions, Solana is back here, and they'll help you learn how to do that. So check them out. And we also have hot pink sunglasses, so you'll see our crew wearing those, and they're free in the back. You can pick yourself up a free pair of pink sunglasses. Also, if you scan our NFT, it'll be on the holding slide here after the session. If you scan the QR code, you can get a free D2 NFT, which will get you discounts into future D2 events coming up in 2024. I think that's pretty much it for the housekeeping announcements. So let me welcome our two speakers. Today we have Alan Rechtschaffen, who's a trustee and chair of the Digital Assets Forum at the Wilson Center. He's moderating a conversation with Jordan Walbesser, who's the director of legal and business affairs for Mattel. So please help me welcome them to the stage.
All right, yeah, great. All right, not bad. Hey, Alan.
Hey,
nice to see you here.
So Jordan and I get to spend a lot of time together because the Wilson Center looks at regulation of digital assets. And the more important thing about cryptocurrency and digital assets is the use cases. And what Mattel has been doing has been an unbelievable use case of digital assets. It's not just about cryptocurrency or NFTs or trading anymore. But Jordan has been working on this, so he and I have become very close over the past year and a half or so, working on thinking about the regulation from the government perspective, at the same time talking to companies like Mattel, who, it's very hard to compete with Barbie, but talking to companies like Mattel about the use cases of digital assets, of the next iteration of the internet, Web 3.0.
Yeah, so I mean, when I joined Mattel, when I became a toy lawyer, I didn't know that was a thing, that you could be a toy lawyer, but here we are. And I thought of toys as being something like, okay, they're pieces of plastic, they're very simple, you can go to Target, you spend $10, you play with it for a while. I mean, I remember toys lovingly from when I was a child, everyone does. What I was really surprised about was how forward-thinking the toy industry is, and Mattel in particular. So when I started looking back at the history of what Mattel did technologically, all the way from Mattel Electronics, the first handheld games, to very early webcams and digital cameras, the reality is if you can do something and scale it to a point where it's a toy, where it can be used by anyone, literally by children, you can use that technology anywhere. And that's where we are with Web3 and the digital space. We're really excited about the next frontier of play and of toys. And we're finding some utility in this space that has been mostly dominated by financial. And we talk about it all the time, this idea of digital assets. People think, oh, it's cryptocurrency, it's derivatives, it's different ways of trading and moving around finance. But it's much more than that. There's more that we can do with Web3 on the blockchain, and it can be fun as well. And we've started that journey with our virtual collectibles, and that's sort of our first foray into that, and we have some really exciting things in the pipeline that we want to do.
Can you give an example of some of the digital? I mean, we've talked about the car racing and things like that, but can you share some of the things that you've been doing in terms of the digital collectibles?
Sure. So, very proud to say that Mattel was the first toy company, and as far as businesses go, probably one of the first major publicly traded companies to offer NFTs, or as I like to call them, virtual collectibles, to the public. And this was very early on. This was before Sotheby's was auctioning off multi-million-dollar NFTs. We said we want to be in this space from a collector perspective. So, as a child, you play with toys, and as an adult, some people don't grow out of it, and they want to keep collecting. And our products, although they're toyetic, they're also highly collectible. So the very first thing that we did in this space was Hot Wheels, something that people love around the world, that come in all various shapes and sizes, and there's very rabid collectors. So we started by issuing those virtual collectibles on the blockchain, and then we wanted to see what people did with them. And we're starting to build off of that, and we're starting to create utility. So now it was just, here's an NFT, now we're starting to say, well, okay, we're helping you set up a wallet. We're helping make this frictionless. All right, it's something that anyone can do. Like I said, about toys, you can do this with a credit card now. You can buy one of these. We're making it more toyetic. So instead of just clicking and buying, you're actually buying a card pack. And you open up that pack, and there's that visceral excitement to see what you got. And then you can trade with your friends. You can build your collection. And because of the nature of Web3, we're really starting to explore some of the utility that we can do outside of that. So now, okay, you have a Hot Wheels NFT. Maybe this allows you to get a one-of-a-kind or a unique or a very limited physical product. Maybe it gives you special access to an event space. And we have to be very mindful of the regulatory side of things and what we can and can't do. And, but there's all sorts of interesting things that we're doing in that digital space with games, with technology, even with other toys. Because now we have an immutable database that anyone can use that contains these virtual collectibles, and we want people to play with that and try something new.
Yeah, and when you say an immutable ledger, you're speaking about the blockchain and how the blockchain works and how the information is stored across multiple nodes and it's not just in one centralized area. Do you think people really care if the information is in a centralized area versus being across a blockchain ledger?
That's a really good question. I would say the average consumer, no. The average consumer just wants something that works and wants something that is simple. And when I work with companies, or if we're doing a request for proposal, we're talking to Web3 companies, I will often ask that very difficult question: why Web3, why blockchain versus a private database that we could hold on to? There's no right answer to that, but what I'm starting to see is, yes, we could have done these virtual collectibles in a private database that we control with an API. The issue is that doesn't allow other people to play with it and to experiment with it. With that decentralization, which we're very excited about, no one owns that ledger. So if we decided we wanted to discontinue something, or we moved in a different direction, or if we invented new brands, new materials, new toys, we would be able to utilize that same ledger, or even cooperate with others on that same ledger to magnify and to create some really interesting toyetic opportunities with the collectibles that we have there. So instead of having centralized control, allowing everybody to have access and control over it is really valuable. I think it's just the nature of play. If you go to a playground and you have your toys, your Hot Wheels, your Jurassic Park figurines, there's no right way to play, right? And there's no right way to play with Web3, and we want to make sure it's that same open availability to experiment and enjoy our products.
Yeah, it's interesting because Jordan's appeared on a podcast I do called Blockchain Explained. And one of the things that Jordan was very specific about early on was not using the term NFT. And part of it is because, and people know that there's a big court case going on right now with a bankruptcy of a big cryptocurrency exchange that's going on right now. It's sort of headline news. But can you explain what this idea of not using the term NFT is, and how you think about the regulation and what the regulators are doing in terms of the evolution of the technology and the business decisions around that?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, we're at Adweek, okay? It's about branding, and that's first and foremost. So I think because of the NFT bubble and some of the bad behavior that we've seen and regulators have seen and Congress has seen with people acting, with those NFTs, we do want to separate ourselves from that. Our concern from a regulatory perspective is we need to be seen less like, I don't want to say a digital asset is sort of a broad term for it. We need to be seen as less of a financial instrument, as of a way to make money, and more of a collectible, more of a baseball card. And that is often the analogy that I use for our virtual collectibles. But the reason I do that is because I just think it's a better description of what it actually is. An NFT, technically, okay, it's a non-fungible token. That is absolutely true. However, it wouldn't be very fun to say, oh, this is my injection molded plastic, miniature figurine. It's a Barbie doll. Okay, let's call it something fun and interesting and accessible. But also, we're trying to sort of stay away and make sure, especially that Congress, the regulators, understand that there may be a side of cryptocurrency and blockchain that needs regulation or that there's bad actors working in it, but we're a separate piece of that. We're actually finding a different piece of utility using the same technology.
And how do you think about the idea of moving the play industry into a virtual realm as opposed to children sitting down and playing with physical things? And is there a psychological component of that Mattel thinks about?
Yeah, we do, and we've been thinking about it for years, and it's a huge top of mind concern for us. Play will never go away. Play is critically important to children's development. It's critically important to us as adults. All right, we need to have play. We need to have those experiences. It's how we learn. It's how we communicate around the world. And this is one of those very few things that is absolutely global, absolutely international, the idea of play, toys, learning, all being tied together. What we've seen as a company and as just a trend globally is there's a movement away from physical toys into the virtual space, the gaming space, the mobile space, the console space. And where toys, and our toy products in particular, you used to have people playing with Barbies from, age 3 to 15, we're starting to see those ages drop down. We're starting to see that young girls stop playing with Barbies around 8 or 9 now. We're starting to see that young boys play with Hot Wheels cars until maybe 12, 13. There's a point where things start to roll off, and there's new experiences, toyetic or otherwise, that are taking over. Whether that's video games, which of course is a huge space for children and adolescents and adults, or if it's just the always-on entertainment. That's something that we never really had, or I never really had growing up. Like maybe you had TV, cartoons around Saturday morning, and that was it. Okay, there, maybe you had another channel for it if you're lucky. But now with YouTube, with TikTok, the media is everywhere, and there's this very strange, happening where there will be kids that watch other kids play with toys on YouTube instead of playing with them themselves, which is it's seemingly bizarre, but it's something that we have to be ahead of. And it's part of the reason why we think so digitally. How can we bring toys? How can we bring our products and our brands that are beloved around the world and move them into a space where children are at and where they're playing?
And do you find that the engagement has grown ever since you've started with the collectibles? Has the engagement grown on the virtual side, on the physical side? Where do you see the repercussions of this?
So we see both. We've seen tremendous upside, tremendous growth for Hot Wheels, for Barbie that we've had in the digital space, or on the digital gaming side. The amount of impressions, if we measure it that way, has been absolutely off the charts. One thing that we're really excited about, just in comparison to the industry, so if we call it NFT drops or we call it virtual collectible drops, what have you, the market has been cratering for quite a while. However, and major players are doing it. Starbucks is trying it. Target's trying it. There's other players out there that, NBA has been trying it. When we release new virtual collectibles, they sell out instantly, every time. And that is the exact opposite of the industry trend. So we're really excited, and I have to give credit to our virtual or our our Future Lab team that is working on this and making sure that it's relevant to our consumers and to our fans, and converting them into that next level. So from a consumer to a fan, that level of engagement with each other is really valuable, I think, for play, especially in a virtual world where friends, family are much further apart than they used to be.
Right. I'm going to press you on a sort of a tough topic, but you were talking about how they sell out instantly. So is there a secondary market? And how do you stay away from the financial aspect of this, in treating this as a collectible as opposed to an investment vehicle?
Sure. Yeah. So there is now I have to be very careful with my words. So yes, there is a secondary market. I mean, that is one of the important pieces of the idea of a collectible period, is that it has to be tradable. It has to be something that people want to exchange with one another. Of course, there's value there. And, whether it's Top Shots or whether it's, a Fanatics, a baseball card, okay, people know that there's value there. Some are worth something, some are not. There's many reasons why that could be the case. It could be rarity. It could be, some popularity, something happens, cards, a misprint. So we do have this secondary market, and we do try to encourage people to trade. And we do this in a couple different ways. We create collections. So when we release these drops and you buy your packs, which are of a limited nature and they sell out, chances are you're not going to be able to complete the collection that you have. So we encourage people to trade with one another. Oh, I got 2 Mustangs. I got 2 Bone Crushers. Let's swap them. Let's trade them. All of which you can do, of course, with Web3 and the blockchain. Yes, there's financial components to this, but that's not the point of the virtual collectible. And that's really where we separate from a lot of the other NFT projects. And I won't name any by name, but I think you can all think of some in the audience here. There were some NFT projects out there where the goal was, I'm going to make money off of this. And I'm going to get into this because I think I can sell this for a lot more later than what I bought it for. That is off-brand for us. That is not what we advertise. It is not something that we expect people to make money on. And in fact, they're priced competitively. They're priced just like a toy or a baseball card. So we're very clear in our language that this is not something. Yes, you can trade these, and sure, you can buy and sell them, but it is not something that you're expected to make money off of or receive any value out of. It's just for your own fun as a collector. And we're very hands-off with that. We encourage it, but at the same time, we're not saying, okay, you have to do this, and you're going to be filthy rich if you do so, or this is the one you need to buy.
As we sit here at Adweek, we don't all have the luxury of selling Barbie as what we do as a company. What other opportunities are there for corporations aside from somebody who's making toys or somebody who makes baseball cards to get into the collectible NFT space? Or are there other use cases of the Web3 technology that you can think of that you've been approached by your colleagues or internally at Mattel that would apply outside of the realm of a toy maker?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many interesting things that I've seen in my journey in this space. Other companies are really interested. Oh, well, let me step back. You used a word that's really important, and you said useful. I think the key to Web3, of which, by the way, I consider myself to be a bit of a skeptic. I'm an optimistic skeptic when it comes to blockchain and Web3. I think what's been missing, the secret sauce, is that utility. And the utility can't just be, I'm going to get rich. That's not utility. That's speculation. That's something we want to avoid. But there's actual interesting things that we can do with Web3 and build on top of this technology. Whether it's collectibles, whether it's access. I mean, we just talked about for D2. Hey, if you scan and you get the D2 NFT, you can get future discounts and future access. Well, this is a really interesting, and that can be traded and moved around. That's a really interesting piece of utility that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I've seen some interesting things about that decentralized ledger, taking the trust out of it. So instead of one company owning it all, you can have a consortium of companies that all use the same ledger to share that information. And then there's no concerns if one walls that up or goes out of business or there's changes. It's always going to be there. So that's really fascinating to me. I've talked with a lot of people, and there's been discussions that I've had internally about, what can we do with fractionalization? Can we, and a difficult word to say, fractionalization. What can we?
Fractionalization meaning if you want to own something, you can share the ownership among multiple people by letting each person own a little piece of that $1 million Barbie doll.
Right, and this is where the regulatory side comes in, and if I can be blunt, where it's actually limiting our ability to do some interesting things. Because, the joke that I said is, well, if you want fractionalized ownership of the Barbie, just buy Mattel stock. Okay, not advice. Not I can't give that either. This is not financial advice. But the point is, like, the regulatory regime that's out there is preventing us from potentially doing some interesting things. And I've had talks with other people in the industry. Something I was really excited about was art ownership and fractionalizing that. The ability for anyone, you and me, to spend $100, $20, $50 on their favorite artist's work and to own it together. And yes, there's some financial components to that. Yes, you could trade that ownership around, and if it ever gets sold at auction, maybe everybody earns from that. I mean, boy, that's something we would love to try to do at Mattel, but we're a bit constrained from the regulatory side because we would be diving in uncharted waters, which Mattel is okay with doing. If you've seen the movie, you understand we're okay with that, but we don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, and it's very difficult to be the first one in that space, especially against a regulatory regime, which is rightly skeptical about some of the malfeasance that could come because of that.
And one of the big issues that people love about, or one of the things that people love about the blockchain is the idea that nobody controls the data. So if you move the entire web onto Web3, now you don't have a few different corporations that are in control of your private information, and now it's spread out among a ledger and nobody can hold the whole thing. What is Mattel doing to protect people's privacy in terms of owning these things and what they're doing with them? Do you centralize that information, or is that also decentralized?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, we keep that decentralized, and we're always interested in knowing about our fans and our customers. We always want to know about them, but that's up to them. I mean, as a toy company and as a company that deal with children, we're very concerned about that privacy. We understand that there's potentially some concerns about that, but there's also some benefits, I think, to having that information decentralized. It's up to the user to control where they want their wallet to be associated with, how they want to use that. Maybe they open a separate wallet just for their toys and a separate one for finance. That's a great idea. But we want to keep that separate and private. But at the same time, we also want to be very careful, too, about who are using those wallets. And we've heard recently, I was reading the Wall Street Journal article about how cryptocurrency has been, used for more nefarious means, whether it's with terrorists or crime syndicates. So we want to be careful about that, and we want to make sure that our assets, our virtual collectibles, aren't being used that way. But the way that they're set up, it's very difficult for us to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple minutes left, but I just want to end off by asking you, and then maybe I'll give some thinking on this also. What advice would you give to the chief marketing officer, the CEO of a company, on how they should be thinking about this, what they should be doing internally or for themselves to become educated to be able to figure out how to capitalize on this technology? And maybe in that context, talk about where you think the technology is going.
Yeah, big question to end with. I think the point is not to be afraid of the technology. You're going to have to take a risk to get there. But the key, and I'll harp on this over and over again, the key is utility. If you're, and I've seen this with so many drops, with so many things where it's just a marketing stunt in Web3 or with blockchain. And if that's going to be the point, maybe you get your splash, but it won't last, and it ends up being a drag on the company because there's a lot of time, effort, and energy that has to be spent into that activation and supporting that activation. That's not good. So the key is focusing on utility. If you're going to be using Web3, blockchain, virtual collectibles, what's the utility? What's the value to the holder? And again, I'm not talking about resale value, but what does this allow you to do? And really think outside the box to try to find that utility, because I think that's where the benefit is going to lie. We have this really interesting technology, and we're just starting to scratch the surface with what can be done with it. So I'm hoping that other marketers will be able to figure out, oh, here's something interesting that we can do, and use it collaboratively. I would love to see, for Mattel, I would love to see other people start to use the blockchain that we're on in a collaborative fashion, and do some interesting things with the collectibles that we already have out there, whether that's gaming companies or otherwise. And we're in a great position to make that happen and to push in that direction. But that's something that we're really interested in seeing.
Yeah, and I to talk about my journey for just 1 minute as we close. The way I became sort of an expert in this area was by learning the technology myself. And I think that if you're the chief marketing officer, if you're a CEO, we're talking to some students from Villanova here today. My advice is that people should learn the technology themselves, to actually play around in the sandbox, because that allows you to think. I just wrote a patent, and the patent got approved, which is a miracle, on a discount coupon using cryptocurrency as a discount coupon. But the reason I figured out how to do that was by trying the technology myself. So I think that playing around in the sandbox is incredibly valuable, and you'll come up with use cases that go well beyond what we've talked about today. And the technology is evolving, and this really is the cutting edge of where technology is in terms of being able to market things in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Jordan, it's always great to spend time with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We have a quick sizzle reel we want to show that Jordan shared with us. So if you give us just a minute of your time, we'll share that. Cue the AV team here. Well, I think we got a little technical problem here. We promise it's really good.
Yeah, it looked great. Trust me. Yeah.
Before we let Jordan and Alan go, wanted to find out if any of you have questions, things you'd like to learn more about that you're afraid to ask. This is the place to learn. We have a lot of vendors here to help you learn. We've got the NICAP 3D cage over here where you can get your self-digitized for free for the metaverse. We've got Solana Pay back here to help you learn more about getting a crypto wallet. Questions, comments?
Hello, we are from a university in Guatemala, so we came all the way just to hear you guys. So I have a question. Does this new world with Web 3.0, it's reaching a new audience, like the nostalgia people that are tapping more into it than children?
Yeah, I mean, I can take that. For our virtual collectibles, the audience that we've seen has been, at this point, older, okay, in their 30s and 40s, and they're majority male. All right, we're trying to change that. And part of the reason that's the case is the friction. It's difficult. If you play around in the sandbox, especially a year ago or 2 years ago, it was very difficult to get a wallet set up and to figure out how to do this and addresses and it was difficult. We're trying to make that easier for parents, to buy for their children, and we're also trying to find experiences and utility that appeal to different demographics, either younger or more importantly to women. So we're hoping that there's some great opportunities coming up where we can leverage some of our other brands like Barbie and American Girl in this space as well.
Other questions, comments? Back here?
I had a quick question on merging the digital and the physical. So I know Mattel sells a lot through Mattel Creations. I think that's where a lot of the NFTs are also, the collectibles are also sold. What about other physical environments? You buy a digital collectible online and then want to redeem something in a physical store. How does that data interchange work, and how much is Mattel building out in its own APIs versus using something else like Flow or another service out there?
Yeah, that's such a great question, that interchange. So currently, yes, Mattel Creations, check it out. Mattel Creations is where we have the Hot Wheels NFT garage, where you can buy, trade, sell your virtual collectibles for Hot Wheels, and we'll be building that out more in the future. So look in that space for some really exciting things that I can't quite yet talk about. Yes, we're starting to think, and we're starting, again, that utility piece, where how do we bring this to retail? How can we make it seamless and frictionless enough where you buy a Hot Wheels or a Matchbox or a Barbie or an American Girl doll, scan something, and that same toy is now in your virtual wallet or your garage or your dream house, whatever you want to call it. We're figuring that out. Part of the issue, again, is the amount of companies and third parties and partners that we have to work with to bridge that gap. And this will come in time. It will get simpler. Part of that is because of the regulatory scheme. You know, Mattel ourselves, we are very skittish about holding cryptocurrency. So we work with third parties to have custodial wallets and have others help control that for us, because from a financial and accounting and as a publicly traded company perspective, to start that hump, to get over that, is gigantic. Once we get over that, it's fine, but we really have to make sure that it's going to be worth it before we do so. But working with the retailers can also be tricky as well. When it comes to point of sale systems, when it comes to ERP, you name it, those systems, not that they're outdated, but they have to work. They're mission critical, and it's very difficult to change them. So building in that Web3 component, that hook, is going to take time, and it has to be done right. But we're seeing steps in that direction where we'll be able to unlock additional utility through those things at point of sale.
I just wanted to add something about IP, about intellectual property with regards to this. One of the interesting things that I found out in going through the evolution of NFTs and collectibles is that if you go ahead and buy a painting, right, from a famous artist, and you take a picture of it and you digitize it and you sell 100 copies of it, right, and you burn that painting, you might think this is a great way to make money, but you've probably violated a bunch of IP rights by doing it. Or you,
yeah, I mean,
so the IP becomes very important. The legal aspects and the regulatory aspects, which are not nearly as cool as Barbie and the Dream House, but are very important in terms of driving how this will evolve, I think.
Yeah, we'd need another hour for that. So we'll think about this maybe next time for another talk about IP in this space. But yeah, it's hugely important, and we think a lot about it. I won't talk about it right now for time, but yeah, we definitely spent a lot of time and energy to make sure that we got that right when it came to our virtual collectibles.
And with that, I think we've got our video ready, so we're going to give it a second try. If you could give us that, please.
Oh, very nice.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Alan. I'm sure there might be some more questions, but we'll leave those to you to talk to these folks individually after. Thank you so much for coming out this morning for what a great presentation. Please help me thank our speakers.